It's a bold splash, a sweet saute. It's more than...
Albeit anonymously, to talk about the deliberations. One juror said race was never an issue.
And I know I'm a black American, but I also know that I can make a decision without using my color, my background, or anything.
Another juror said the videotape of the beating speaks for itself, adding that's basically what convicted them. David?
Judy, tell us what happens now to these policemen who were convicted.
Well, Kuhn and Powell face sentencing August 4th. They face fines of $250,000 and a maximum sentence of 10 years. The other officers who were acquitted, Ted Brasino, he faces a disciplinary hearing within the department. And Tim Wind was fired. He was the rookie policeman who was acquitted. He was fired by the force last year when this all happened. And his future is uncertain. He'll certainly, probably, not get a job as a police officer again.
$250,000. How do they hope to get money like that out of a policeman?
Well, they don't have any money left. They were unable to pay their lawyers. I don't know where they hope to get the money.
Willie Williams, I gather the chief of police, is in some danger of becoming a hero. Is that right?
And that's a strange thing in this city for a police chief, as you might know. Yes, I think there's a lot of credit being given to Willie Williams for the way this was handled. The massive deployment of police in the streets certainly helped to calm fears even before the verdicts were in.
Judy, one last question. I understand there are 24 candidates in the election of mayor coming up shortly. Are you one of them?
Just about everybody in Los Angeles is running for mayor, and it's ironic that nobody's been paying any attention to the mayor's race. The first initial primary election is this week, and hardly anybody's been paying attention because of the trial. Well, maybe I can get in there now.
Well, I hope you make it. Judy, thank you. You've been really great through all of this.
Thanks, Dave.
Now, coming next, the Los Angeles Chief of Police, Willie Williams, in a moment.
This week with David Brinkley, brought to you by GE. From plastics to financial services, we bring good things to life. And by ADM, supermarket to the world.
Every second of every day, there are 3 new mouths in this world to feed. Hundreds of millions more by the year 2000. And the majority of them will be born in countries where malnutrition is already reaching alarming proportions. Right now, the world has the food and the resources to conquer hunger. But it won't happen as long as we continue to look the other way. ADM, supermarket to the world.
This is the biggest oven I've ever seen.
GE's XL44 gas oven has sealed burners and 30% more oven space, all in the same kitchen space. The XL44 from GE.
You've made too much food.
Ariel, you're a pain in the...
It's the big oven everyone's talking about.
Chief Williams, thank you very much for coming in this early hour on the Pacific Coast, being with us.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming. Here in the studio with us in Washington are George Will and Cokie Roberts, both of ABC News. Now, Chief, this time, unlike the last time, you announced in advance that you would have a formidable force of police arrayed around in the appropriate places. Is that why we got through it, you got through it with no problems?
Well, I think it was several combinations. One, the message was sent out beginning several months ago that despite whatever the verdict was, guilty, innocence, or combinations as ultimately occurred yesterday, that the Los Angeles Police Department and other law enforcement agencies would be out on the street in uniform, going about their normal duties, but in significantly increased numbers to ensure that opportunists did not have their second chance to loot and pillage the city. At the same time, we sent the message that our primary purpose, in addition, was to provide security and safety for the 3.5 million people who live in this city. The second reason that there was no major problems was that the men and women who live in this city made a commitment that despite whatever the verdict would have been, if it were 4 acquittals, they were not going to allow the same type of looting and destruction to occur again.
Plus the fact you had 6,500 policemen out on the streets.
Well, that was something that I wish I could do every day. Right now we have about 3,000 officers working on the morning watch and another 3 in the evening. and probably one of the smallest police departments in the country, but we made the commitment to put those numbers out.
Mr. Williams, let's try and apply the lesson to the future. In vast tracts of American cities, life is a slow-motion riot from one end of the year to the other, with violence and random shootings and all the rest. What you achieved this weekend seems to indicate that a heavy police presence, visible and perhaps on the street, not just in squad cars, helps. Is there a lesson from this?
Oh, there's several lessons. We started our build-up last Saturday morning. Major crime, repressible crime, is down significantly, as much as 30 or 40%, in some areas over 60%, with increased visibility, answering 911 calls, going about their regular jobs, but in increasing numbers. It does say that increased uniform visibility on the streets can have a major impact on repressible crime, and also it makes the community feel safer and reduces the fear of crime in our communities.
I gather you feel that Los Angeles is 2,000 officers short of what you call a bare bones police capacity. Why, if domestic tranquility is the first business of government, isn't that being provided?
Well, the community finds it very, very difficult to raise the taxes necessary to provide the type of law enforcement that this community needs. There's a ballot measure Tuesday that would cost the taxpayers $10 a month. That's all, $10 a month to add 1,000 officers to this department. I mean, I've made a commitment to put those officers in uniform on the streets. It's a difficult decision to raise taxes. Nobody wants to pay them, but safety and security do cost, and hopefully in this city this past week, the citizens have seen what can occur when we add more officers, and maybe we'll have a different outcome next Tuesday.
I'm wondering, Chief, what the morale is in your police department upon the conviction of 2 of their members. I was listening to one of the lawyers for one of the police officers who was found guilty this morning, saying it was the entire police department on trial. If the jury is right that these men are guilty, then the entire police department is guilty. What do you say about that?
Well, first of all, I didn't hear that comment, but that lawyer's statements are absolutely wrong. Unfortunately, in the minds of many, the entire police department was on trial, and that's what we're trying to separate. There were 4 individual members of the Los Angeles Police Department of more than 10,000 civilian and sworn, and about 7,000 sworn. 4 people were on trial. 4 people out of millions of police officers in the United States. The majority of the men and women in this department and others do their jobs day in and day out to the best of their ability. They make split-second decisions. They make the right decisions. If they make mistakes, they're taken into accountable. So the entire department was not on trial. In terms of morale is down in this department because of a number of things. They've lived with the Rodney King beating for 2.5 years. They've lived with the disappointments of the response and the leadership last year during the riots. And they've lived with international notoriety, media from all over the world looking over their shoulder, examining everything they do. And they've lived without a contract for the last 1.5 years. So all of these things have impacted on morale, but I believe the coming together of both the police department and its community yesterday has helped turn that corner, and morale is going to begin to come up. It's going to take a while. It's going to take time, but I believe we're on the upside now.
One of the other things that they're going to have to be living with is the increase of guns in the city. Apparently, in the last few weeks, the purchase of guns has gone way up, and you're still going to have those guns in people's hands now that this verdict is over.
That's right. That's one of my biggest fears. Too many of our communities have armed themselves to the teeth. And as I've tried to let our citizens know in the past few weeks, most people never, ever use the guns that they purchase for the intent that they purchase those weapons. They end up being borrowed, lost, stolen, or worse yet, used by a member of a family against another family member, a son, a daughter, a spouse, or a child. Our biggest fear is that these guns in the hands of amateurs are going to raise the death count, raise the injury count in our community. We're asking people to turn them in, to turn them back to the people that purchased them from, turn them into the police. That's a long-term detrimental effect of the fear
Chief, let me ask
in this city.
Let me ask you a question that's more history than current affairs. A year ago, when the riot began, the police seemed to disappear. I don't ask you to criticize your predecessor, but can you tell us why that happened?
I think that occurred from my view of being here in Los Angeles a year, lack of planning, not the best leadership that there should have been, not recognizing that trial was going to end, that there should have been maximum deployment on the streets. There should have been a discussion with the community prior to that decision so that the community accepted that decision as they did this time around, and I believe you would not have had the results. you may still have had rioting. You may still have had some improper actions, but the community and law enforcement would have been able to deal with it up front in the beginning, and we would not have seen the results that we saw last year.
Primarily it was poor leadership and poor planning, is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Chief, I'd like to go back to the subject of gun control and ask you how severe you would be in advocating gun control. And I'd like you to comment on one proposal made in all earnestness by Pat Moynihan repeatedly. He says guns don't kill people, bullets do. Let's ban ammunition of certain calibers used in the most common handguns. Do you see anything wrong with that?
Well, first of all, I'm a strong gun control advocate. I believe that most of the major rifles, AK-47s, we should ban the importation as well as the domestic manufacturing of those weapons. They're only used to hunt human beings, not animals if you are a hunter. I'm not sure if just banning ammunition is an answer. It certainly is a start. But there's so much ammunition on our streets, it would probably take 20 years before it would rot and no longer be useful.
He says
if it works, I'll take it.
And Mr. Moynihan says we have a 200-year supply of guns and a 4-year supply of ammunition. But on another matter, on the subject of violence, there's a lot of discussion nowadays about the correlation, and it may be causation, the correlation between the rise of the spread of television and the rise of television and cinema violence and the spread of violence in society. What is your instinct, not as a scholar, but as a practicing law enforcement officer, about this correlation and perhaps causation?
I'm not sure if I'm the expert in that area, but I believe that the more our young people particularly see violence on television, the more they see a lack of respect for women in America and young children, that they replicate that when they go to schools, they replicate that in their homes, they replicate that in their social environment. So I believe that if we have more responsible television programming, more responsible movie making, less degradation in terms of the women in our society and others, that we can have a positive impact on crime and in those areas.
Chief Williams, you have two more events coming up that could be a problem. The trial of Reginald Denny, the white truck driver, and the sentencing of these police officers. First of all, are you concerned about those? And are you concerned that there seems to be an attitude in the community that the only just solution is for the Denny, the people who beat Reginald Denny to get off, and for the police officers to get a harsh sentence?
Well, I'm not sure if that's the attitude in all our communities. Matter of fact, I'm positive it's not. There are some people that probably, for the right reasons and the wrong reasons, have made a correlation between the two events, which certainly should be viewed separate and distinct. I believe this community, having lived through the events of the last 24 to 48 hours, can live through whatever the decisions are out of the Denny trial this summer or this fall. We have also learned that we can live through whatever the sentencing instructions and decisions are by the judge. The real lesson learned of this past week is that crisis will come and go in the city of Los Angeles as they did in the past, but they will not lead necessarily and automatically to riots and destruction on our streets.
And the next time you will have a new mayor of the city of Los Angeles. Does that mean that you might not have to take quite such a high-profile position, or was this a comfortable position to be in, the hero of Los Angeles?
Well, I'm not sure if that's the right title, but I mean, I'm very comfortable in that I've worked 30 years, the last 5 as a chief, and it goes with the territory. But I'm certainly willing to share the responsibility and share some of the aggravation. There's plenty to go around.
Well, Chief, you are now seen as a hero in Los Angeles, so if you want a word of advice from the East Coast, enjoy it while it lasts. Good luck.
I know it. Throw bouquets today and stones tomorrow.
Thank you very much for being with us and for getting up so early.
Thank you.
Nice of you to come. Coming next, the new Attorney General of the United States, Janet Reno, who made a reputation as a prosecutor, a law and order prosecutor, in Miami. In a moment.
Something is terribly wrong with these pictures, but you could look all day and not see it. The problem is carbon monoxide, an invisible, deadly pollutant emitted in auto exhaust. Fortunately, there's a way to help reduce these emissions. Ethanol, a renewable fuel derived from corn grown by the American farmer. And now, for the first time ever, the Clean Air Act requires ethanol and other oxygenated fuels to be used in 39 of the nation's most polluted cities during the winter months. When this program was tested in Denver in 1988, atmospheric levels of carbon monoxide dropped 8% in the first 2 months. Dropping. No wonder it became a model for cleaning up the air in cities all over the country. The problem of carbon monoxide may be invisible, but the solution is becoming clearer every day.
When Tokyo Electric Power turned to GE for its advanced turbine technology, it gave Tokyo the largest, most efficient power plant of its kind in the world, which means more jobs for people back home and a better future for the people of Japan.
What in the world is intelligent color? Intelligent color is more than just color for color's sake. It's a color printer so fast and responsive it can publish thousands of newsletters a day. Who needs intelligent color? Anyone who needs to highlight vital information in no time at all. To find out what intelligent color can do for your documents, do something intelligent. Call 1-800-ASK-XEROX, the document company.
Tonight on day one, this is the story you've never heard before. Jeffrey Dahmer.
He would attack you. He would.
From people who knew him and from his own words, what made this child a monster? And why wasn't killing enough?
I knew I was sick or evil or both.
Forrest Sawyer, day one, tonight.
Ms. Reno, do you like to be called General? That's the ordinary form of address for the Attorney General. You like that? You want to be called General? What do you want us to call you?
No, I don't think that generals belong in the law, so Ms. Reno or Janet or hey you is fine.
Ms. Reno. All right, fine. Thank you. We've cleared that up. Whether we clear up anything else or not. The period of presumed danger in Los Angeles ended with a gathering of 25 television cameras, people selling funny T-shirts, the great American artifact. What have we learned from the events out there? What do you gather from it?
I think it's imperative that we now look to the future and not rest on the fact that there has been peace on the streets of Los Angeles, but there is concern throughout America, in communities throughout America, about violence, about children growing up in atmospheres that are not safe and healthy. I think youth violence is perhaps one of the most critical problems we face in America, and I think we have to join together police officers, the thousands of sensitive, concerned police officers who are devoted to their community, devoted to their people, who are fair, working with others, delivering social and health services, to rather restitch the fabric of society around so many of our young people and those that feel left out.
Well, we've just heard, you heard, Chief Williams say that one reason they avoided riots in Los Angeles was that he put an enormous number of police on the streets where they could be seen. Is that the answer?
I think that it's important, and I have been so impressed with what Chief Williams is trying to do in terms of not only putting police officers on the streets, but putting police officers on the streets in a sensitive, thoughtful, firm way, that we're not going to brook violence, but at the same time we're going to reach out and develop understanding and mutual trust with our communities. I think we can do that beyond just this effort. I think police officers can work with social workers and public health nurses to do so much in terms of addressing the problem of American families, of children in American families as a whole, and giving them an opportunity to get off to a fresh start, to become self-sufficient, to lead safe, constructive lives.
As you know, many people in the even in the American Civil Liberties Union, a lot of civil libertarians generally, are worried that this second trial constituted double jeopardy, that it violates the principle and the spirit of the principle that you should not be subject to trial twice for the same offense. Can you explain simply to our viewers why this wasn't double jeopardy?
This wasn't double jeopardy because you have two different sovereigns. We addressed this issue in Miami on a number of occasions where federal authorities followed with a subsequent prosecution. And as the Supreme Court, as case law has evolved in this nation, you have two separate sovereigns, and therefore it is not double jeopardy.
On the subject of the federal sovereign, there seems to be an increasing tendency to federalize more and more offenses. And you're in favor, I gather, of something to protect abortion clinics. You said the following recently. You said, just as there should be a federal remedy for racial and gender discrimination, somehow or other there has got to be a federal response to interference through physical conduct with a woman seeking a legal abortion. Why? Why must there be a federal response? Why can't, say, the state of Florida cope with these problems?
I have been advised by law enforcement agents in Florida as well as around the nation that the problem extends beyond state lines, that there are coordinated efforts throughout the country to develop procedures for physically obstructing access to clinics. And where it crosses state lines, where there is a federal implication, I think it is appropriate. At the same time, I think it is important for us to look at sentencing policies in America, look at charging policies, look at what is federal, what is state, and try to develop a coordinated approach in terms of sentencing, charging, what is state, what is federal responsibility, to make sure that the limited resources of all governments are used in the most effective, fair manner possible.
You talked in answer to George's question about the two sovereigns, one the federal government, one the state. But in terms of that second trial, I think there was a lot of concern that the jury would be so influenced by the events that followed the first trial, that 53 people were killed in that riot. And the lawyers for the police officers are certainly saying that. One of them said today that justice becomes popular opinion, and that's the downfall of the system. Is that something that would concern you?
I think people who say that underestimate the strength of American citizens and the strength of the American jury system. There may sometimes be a mistake, but I think that the citizens of America who are sworn to uphold their duty in a jury setting are going to try to do their best to do that regardless of the consequences.
The other fact that is coming out of Los Angeles this morning is from the Congresswoman Waters, complaining that there are now 47,000 cases of police abuse sitting in your Justice Department unacted on. Will there now be more action on those cases?
We have said since I took office that we would review any case which remains open or in which someone has concerns about lack of federal action and review it to determine if the investigation has been complete, and then make an appropriate judgment based on the evidence and the law.
But it's going to be a little bit hard at the moment, isn't there? The Justice Department is not exactly staffed up to capacity, is it? How are you doing on getting your appointments?
One of the findings that I've made in the little over a month that I've been in office is that the American people should be extraordinarily proud of the career lawyers in the office. They're extraordinary, they're dedicated, they're fine lawyers who approach issues from a non-political point of view. There's tremendous strength, and we're beginning to work on these issues.
When do we get a new director of the FBI?
I don't know whether we will get a new director of the FBI.
When do we get a decision on Mr. Sessions staying or somebody else taking his place?
As soon as I complete a review, as soon as I make sure that I have thoroughly understood all the issues in the most objective, fair manner possible.
Everyone should understand the FBI director works for you. That's why I raised the question. George?
Well, technically he may work for me, but the President of the United States appoints him.
Yes, but he works for you.
The Clinton administration, rather more abruptly than most administrations, got rid of, as was their right, all U.S. attorneys to replace them with Democrats. One effect of this was to decapitate the ongoing investigation of an ally of the president's, Chairman Rostenkowski from Illinois. Can you assure people that this having happened, that investigation will be carried on?
First of all, we didn't get rid of all the U.S. attorneys. We're doing it in an orderly way like it's been done before. Secondly, the people that I understand are conducting the Rostenkowski investigation are still there and are going strong.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
for being with us. Pleasure to have you. Wish you luck in your new job.
Thank you, sir.
Coming next, the Prime Minister of Japan, Kiichi Miyazawa. He's been at Washington to talk with President Clinton about the continuing problem of Japan selling in this country, but not being willing to buy. In a moment.
They are our mothers and daughters, sisters and wives. They are our friends and partners, our strength and conscience. They guide us, nurture us, and protect us. They give us hope. They give us life. But there's a fact of every woman's life that we must all face up to. 1 out of every 9 will be stricken with breast cancer. That's why GE created its new Synograph technology. It can make mammography faster, more comfortable, and more accurate. And by helping doctors detect tumors earlier, the GE Senograph can help make a remarkable 91% cure rate possible, so that all our grandmothers and granddaughters, best friends and good neighbors, may live happier, healthier, and longer lives.
This Week with David Brinkley will continue in a moment.
On the next Good Morning America, Charles Gibson reports live from Los Angeles with reaction to the verdict. What's ahead for the LA community and for the nation on Good Morning America.
The whole deal was for my ideas to go where I can't. I want to share my ideas.
I need to work with other people.
What I want at this company is a computer network.
A partner to make it work.
What we need is a computer network that allows us to share information in different departments, different buildings, different cities.
A computer is only a box. It's not more boxes we need. It's a network.
It could work.
Enterprise Networking Services from US West connects and maintains LANs and computer networks. For information, call 800-DATA-USW.
Behind me is an ultra-sophisticated piece of equipment from Horizon Air. If the other airlines were to find out about this, well, I don't have to tell you. We call it a cart. You put your bag on it just before you board your Horizon Air flight, and then somehow, magically, it's waiting for you on a cart when you get off. It's like checked baggage without having to check it. Do you know how much time you save? I do.
Watch Town Hall for the ultimate debate. Is there a God? Tonight at 6.
For decades now, a continuing disagreement, more or less peaceful, between Japan and the United States. The subject, trade. The fact the American market is wide open to Japanese goods, but the Japanese market is far from wide open to American goods. And a background report on this from Jack Smith. Jack?
David, trade was the main issue when Prime Minister Miyazawa and President Clinton met late this week, and there was open disagreement.
Let's not paper this over. There are some differences still between the Prime Minister and me about what kinds of agreements we should make.
The meeting takes place against the backdrop of a trade deficit that is rising again. Japan is in a recession and buys less from the U.S., and a noticeably tougher line from the Clinton administration. Talks with Japanese officials.
I said I thought we had to bring the trade deficit down.
And at news conferences.
The possibility of obtaining real even access to the Japanese market is somewhat remote.
Prime Minister Miyazawa arrived in Washington bringing the promise that a new $116 billion package to jumpstart the Japanese economy will stimulate the demand for U.S. goods. Administration officials, though, are skeptical. When he visited Washington last year, the Prime Minister made a similar pledge.
I'll examine the situation and undertake every possible means.
It's part of what critics say is the Japanese preference for process, not results.
They say, here's a new process we're going to go through. That doesn't get you anywhere. You have to get to a result. You have to say the goal is 20% of the market or 10% of the market.
That is the Clinton approach. Specific commitments by Japan to buy specific U.S. goods, and U.S. officials point as a model to the 1986 semiconductor agreement, in which Japan agreed to allow foreigners 20% of its huge electronic chip market, a goal that was achieved just last month. It's an approach the Japanese, though, have rejected, and Miyazawa did again this week when he praised free trade, but added,
This cannot be realized with managed trade, nor under the threat of unilateralism.
The Japanese tend to blame trade problems on Americans for not working hard enough and for borrowing too much.
There is a great deal of resentment. The Japanese feel that America has shifted the responsibility for its own economic mismanagement onto the shoulders of the Japanese.
The situation is aggravated by the collapse of communism.
The Cold War partnership between our two countries is outdated.
Not only is Japan treated as a junior partner, but Washington spends $60 billion a year providing security in the Pacific, where there are no longer any direct threats to the U.S.
It's just not reasonable politically or economically to expect that the United States
is going to bear that disproportionate burden forever.
The end of the Cold War, then, has removed some of the glue from the U.S.-Japanese relationship, and that makes trade friction all the more noticeable. And with Japan's apparent refusal now to set trade targets and the Clinton administration's determination to get them, the stage seems set for more conflict between the world's two greatest economic superpowers. David?
Jack, thank you. Here now in the studio with us is Prime Minister Miyazawa of Japan. Prime Minister, we thank you for coming. Pleased to have you with us. Now, Prime Minister, you had a meeting yesterday with President Clinton, and the reports coming out afterward were that neither of you accomplished a great deal. How would you put it?
Well, primary purpose of my coming here is to get acquainted, get to know better with President Clinton, and I'm satisfied that I've been able to establish trust and friendship. That's most important to me. We did talk on trade matters, other matters as well, but I think we've been able to basically agree in what we should do, not immediately, not in a quick fix, but over a period of time.
Last year, a trade imbalance of about 40 to 45, $49 billion
Right.
between our two countries. The administration's position seems to be that's bad, and it's your fault. Is it bad, and whose fault is it?
First, it's bad. I think Japanese government, I myself is as embarrassed as your government, your president. We are all sort of embarrassing situation.
Well, but it means we're buying lots of products and goods and services that you make, more than we're selling to you. Why should either side be embarrassed by that? Unless there is illicit protectionism involved.
Yeah. So that blame perhaps not the right word to me. We've been selling to the United States, this is buying from Japan, provided that there is any unfair or irregular transactions, then I think blame perhaps is not the right word. Although from economically speaking, this kind of lopsided balances cannot possibly last for, should not perhaps last for many years.
You have ruled out as impermissible two particular approaches to changing this. One is managed trade, and the other is unilateral actions by one side or the other. Let's take first managed trade. The administration points as a great success to the semiconductor agreement whereby Japan agreed that 20% of its semiconductor market would go to foreign firms. We think, the administration thinks that's a success. You think it's not the way to go. Is that true?
Well, I'm glad that President Clinton is not for quick fix, like managed trade or setting a target the way you understand we did in the semiconductor. And I'm really happy that President Clinton, instead of calling for a quick fix, that I proposed to work out a framework in which we'll discuss these things. On this semiconductor thing, what actually happened, I don't want to get into detail, but that United States business expected they'll reach 20% by the end of 1992, which Japanese business, yes, they would cooperate, but that insofar the government is concerned, government recognizes the expectation of the United States and would be happy to see it realized. So there's a clear understanding, I think written, between the two governments. It's not a guarantee or a promise.
Mr. Prime Minister, this weekend, the New York Times in an editorial said in the meeting with you and President Clinton, belligerence was close to the surface. Is that true? Are you nervous about the relationship with this new president?
Not at all. We didn't mince words, but I developed my great admiration to your president. Perhaps that is the mutual.
And the fact that security and military matters, which for so long were the prime issues bringing the United States and Japan together, are no longer at the top of the agenda. How does that affect your relations with the United States?
Yes, perhaps the United States like the priority on economics with good reason. But that doesn't mean that this security matters, global responsibility is now really is not lost now, because just take the instances of Russia. Just early part of this week, Japan, chaired the assistance to Russia meeting.
But while they were there, once again, the economic issues came to the fore, and they criticized your country for its stimulus package, saying that it was too small and that it would not do enough to get the Japanese economy going to buy U.S. goods.
When somebody here criticizes the $116 billion package is small or nothing, then yes, it's really 7 times of the president proposing to a diet, and that is a sizable amount of money. And how to spend the money, I think I know the best of anybody. So you can leave it to me.
And do you think that President Clinton is ready to do that, to leave it to you?
Oh, sure. Insofar as that amount of macro package is concerned, he had nothing to complain. Only he wanted to say that is the right direction, wanted to be the first step to be followed with subsequent measures. But yes, he does appreciate.
Prime Minister, how does the United States reduce or eliminate its trade deficit with Japan? How do we do it?
I wish I knew, Mr. Brinkley. We've been doing, both our countries, in good faith, over a decade, how to do it. First, we had the Plaza Agreement, by which Japanese currency is evaluated just 100%. We had 242 when that agreement started. Now we have 113 today. And that, I think, is one result of cooperation. Then we started on this structural impediment initiative that is talking together as to the structural problems of each country, as well as sectoral approach that is on automobile or semiconductors or these specific matters. So I think, to the best of my knowledge, anybody's, we have, I think, been trying on this in good faith for over 10 years. Well, but still the balance stays.
Still around $40 billion.
Right.
So there's a way to go. George?
Yes, coming back to that, we heard a moment ago Mr. Gephardt, the Democratic leader in the House, say we want quotas, we want goals, we want specific targets. Are you saying that that is not part of the solution that your government will agree to?
For 2 reasons. One, I really cannot promise anything I cannot possibly deliver on. Japan is a market economy like yours. How can anybody assure that business will do something or should do something over a period of time, not knowing the price, not knowing the quality, but just as the quantity? That's really runs against the very principle of Adam Smith's God's invisible hands.
Adam Smith
That's one thing.
Adam Smith
the other thing, if you really want some government to do that, you are telling the government to be a managed economy, like the way Russian had been doing, which you want to them change now.
But, Mr. Prime Minister, there's a lot of complaint in this country that you do have a semi-managed economy, and that there are all kinds of products that were higher quality American products, for instance, machine tools, that you did not allow into your country so that you could get your own machine tool industry going. And that through your own management, you've kept out our products. And now we're saying it's time to let our products in and not for you to be protecting yours in the way you were. That's what the American president seems to be saying.
And that your argument, Ms. Roberts, you used to have a very good machine toolers like Cincinnati, Ohio. You don't have them now. Not just because Japanese competition. Why don't they have? Apparently, the qualities of machine tools from other countries were found better. I think that was the reason these famous makers in Cincinnati now do not exist anymore.
Well, of course, they'd say you put them out of business.
Japan's economy is not strong enough to prevent Cincinnati machines to come to Japan and destroy the business. No.
Prime Minister, I'm sorry our time is up, but we do thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Hope your visit here is beneficial to both countries.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Coming next, our discussion here, free and unfettered, and joining us will be Barbara Walters of ABC News. In a moment.
Look what ADM Research has cooked up. An all-vegetable patty that contains dietary fiber, is low in fat, and free of cholesterol. One that's made to meet the demands of vegetarians and other health-conscious consumers. It's the Midland Harvest brand Harvest Burger. And so far, it's made a big impression everywhere it's landed. ADM, supermarket to the world.
Word on the street was they were a bad bet. An American institution, 3 days shy of extinction. Only one investment firm, Dean Witter, saw past the problems to the real value of the company. And a rumble was heard round Wall Street as the last American motorcycle company came roaring back to life with a listing on the New York Stock Exchange. From Main Street to Wall Street, at Dean Witter.
We measure success one investor at a time.
Growing up, Yvette Ortiz dreamed of making a difference. But she soon learned all her intelligence and determination weren't enough to make it come true. She needed more. Anheuser-Busch believes everyone deserves a chance to realize their dreams. That's why for the last 10 years, they've been the leading supporter of the National Hispanic Scholarship Fund. Because helping people like Yvette means helping so many more.
Just do this to air pollution. In a way we can. If homes and industries, power plants and vehicles would just switch to natural gas. Clean, economical, natural gas. Think what we'll save.
Sunday, a world television premiere. America's Queen of Comedy takes on the King.
Personal friends with the King, were you?
I'd like to continue Elvis's work.
You look as good as you did the day we met.
It's Roseanne, Tom, and of course the King, the woman who loved Elvis Sunday.
President Clinton asked Congress for $16.5 billion as a stimulus, stimulate the economy, he says, and create some jobs and get the economy moving and so on. It's run into opposition, and Congress so far has blocked it to the point where he's offered to settle for $4 billion less. The Republicans refuse to accept that. So where are we going with this, Cokie?
It's a mess, David. When the president first brought up that stimulus package, the conservative Democrats in the Senate said to him, we do not have the votes to pass this thing, Mr. President. It is too much money added to the deficit. We can't do it. So there was talk of compromise, and then the Black Caucus in the House said, wait a minute, no compromise. We have to have this stimulus package. And now you've got enough minority members in the House that you can block a proposal if they're not for it. So they passed...
Is that a change that most people don't realize has taken place?
That is a change that's taken place as a result of this past election, and since President Clinton knows he can only get something through with Democratic votes, he's going to have the Republicans voting against him. You can't have a whole group of Democrats walk away from something like the Black Caucus was ready to. So then they pass it as a liberal stimulus bill in the House. They get to the Senate, not enough votes. And it's going to be a problem because the Republicans have succeeded, I think, in defining this as a pork bill as opposed to a jobs bill. And it's going to be a problem for Bill Clinton to convince people otherwise.
George, what do you think?
Well, the president traveled yesterday to Pittsburgh, where he said there's a lot of money here for Pittsburgh's airport, and he was trying to pressure Senator Specter, who he thinks is evidently pressurable, which it seems to me must cause Senator Specter to redouble his energies and dig his heels in, lest he seem too pliable. But anyway, so the politics of this gets complicated. What's happening, David, is that a president who wins with 43% of the vote, who finds that before his first 100 days is out, he's below 50% in approval rating. His job approval now is approximately where Ford's was after the pardon of Nixon, who is rejecting a fairly fundamental premise that the Republicans are arguing for, which is if you're going to spend the money, pay for it. He finds he's not feared much anymore. And people are not even noticing the fact that the investment tax credit, which is another part, has also been killed by Democrats, principally Bill Bradley.
Barbara, you want to join in this?
Okay, well, the Republicans have said in the Senate that they've agreed to $4 billion, isn't it, George, for unemployment, and maybe another $2 billion they'll agree to for inoculation and some other things, which
All
means...
of this is borrowed money.
Borrowed money, but which
understands.
means that, let's say, they will agree to, what, $5 or $6 billion out of the president's total package. Then, which is very little compared to what the president has asked for, then if, as Cokie says, it goes back into the House, these same Democrats have to go back to their mayors and their constituents and say, okay, we agree to a compromise, if indeed they do, and I agree with you, I don't think they can, when just a few weeks from now, we're going to have a president asking for aid to Russia. Now that, in a sense, is all tied together. How do you compromise in America, whether it's the swimming pools or the bicycle paths or whatever, and then come back a few weeks later and stand behind your president who now says, I want to give money to Russia. So it's not just this, it's whatever that next step is. He's really in a mess.
Because the president yesterday was talking about it. His predecessors were ready to give money abroad, not ready to spend money at home. And as you say, he's got this huge Russian aid package. But George gets to the fundamental problem that Bill Clinton has with this bill and with every single bill that's going to come down the pike, which is that he got 43% of the vote. And what he's trying to do is to change that, which means, of course, that every single solitary member of Congress got a higher percentage, got 50%, 51% of the vote. Clinton's trying to change that calculation and saying, well, Ross Perot and I together got 2/3 of the votes, and those were votes for change, for not doing business as usual, and to try to put pressure on the Republicans in the Senate that way. It doesn't seem to be working.
The average House member won with 63% of the vote. That's the winning average in the House last time.
And look what he's got on his plate now. All of these things that I just jotted down a few of the things, and I'm sure you can add to them. The stimulus package, health care, Bosnia, aid to Russia, looking for a Supreme Court justice, meetings with heads of state, and in the middle of it all, a conference on forests. I mean, what do you push first?
Tax, the
VAT tax. Another tax?
Value-added tax. George, would you like to hold forth on that?
Well, it's essentially a national sales tax, most of the cost of which gets passed on to consumers. The political class loves it for two reasons. It generates a torrent of money for them to play with, but also it's surreptitious. It's very hard for people to actually see it happen. It's not there in your paycheck under withholding.
It's included in the price of what you buy.
Well, that's right.
And it's not stated separately.
It's like the energy tax. I mean, I think the reason they're settling on the BTU, British Thermal Unit, some people think what's that long underwear? No one knows what it is.
There's some English thing.
That's right, some English thing. And the reason I think they're settling on that is that, too, is unintelligible, so that they can raise taxes without people noticing. The extraordinary thing is they announced this, I think, on the 15th of April, not when Americans are in a cheerful and giving mood.
Mailing checks to the IRS.
And it comes about 6 weeks, they raised this, 6 weeks after the president said maybe in 10 years we can think about this. It wasn't deft.
Well, the value-added tax originated in Europe and is a substitute for the income taxes which they will not pay and they will not collect.
And the only
we do pay, and they do collect. We don't need it. It's the worst idea we've heard in years.
The only way you could do it in this country, actually, would be to do a whole revamping of the income tax.
Eliminate the income tax is what they ought to do, but they won't. They'll have both.
What about city tax, which we have, and state taxes, which we have, which they don't have in Europe? They're not going to put this on top of all of that?
Of course they are.
The problem is that, of course, what they're talking about using it for is to pay for health care. And the problem gets down to the fact that there are, for these, if you're going to insure these 47 million people who don't have health insurance or have people who have pre-existing conditions covered by insurance companies and all that, it's going to cost a whole lot of money. And they're trying to find a place to get that money, and they haven't found it.
They bring up the tax and get specific about the tax before they've told people a single significant detail about the coming health care reform they're going to propose. And it makes people think these are taxaholics. There really ought to be a Betty Ford clinic for recovering taxaholics out there, and it can send these people.
Have you ever known one to be cured, George?
Never.
I have.
Donna Shalala says, let's have it. That was it's a good idea. That was, as you said, on April 15th. And then Al Gore says on Friday, it's way off in the future. Again, we have this feeling of, do they know, is the left hand telling the right hand? Is the vice president telling the president?
Language. Now, among other forthcoming events, there is a march in Washington next Sunday, a week from today, of the gays. And they invited the president to join in the parade. He declined. But he did invite them to the White House, to the Oval Office, where they had a meeting and a talk. This is something new. First time that ever happened.
But you know, it is exactly like, I mean, it's the mirror image of the Republican president and the anti-abortion people. Exactly the same thing. You can come to the Oval Office, but you can't have your picture taken. You can have your march, and I might address you by telephone, but I won't be there, and there certainly won't be any pictures. In each case, the presidents have people in their parties who are very important in terms of the base of the party and in terms of fundraising and all of that, but who might be a problem when it gets to getting the mainstream of the American voters into your camp. And so they play it very gingerly.
But no photographers were allowed in the
no
meeting.
Pictures.
But isn't it something anyway that a president is comfortable under these circumstances? You can't imagine either Ronald Reagan or George Bush meeting with gay and lesbian leaders, and yet this president, just the symbolism of his saying, hey, I'm comfortable. This is acceptable. It means a great deal, especially this week when we had this poll that said it's not 10% of the people in this country who are gay, but only 1%. It all kind of came out together. And yet the president says, look, it's okay with me, whatever the percentage. I think that's important.
Is it possible to get an accurate poll on that subject, would you say?
Well, the people who are against, who say that it is inaccurate, said it was done face-to-face, and that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But the president's own people, and I think you probably remember this more than I do, had estimated it as being 4 to 5% rather than the 10% figure that Kinsey used. I don't know, but I don't know whether it really matters terribly much.
But when in doubt, when these magic numbers go around, ask yourself, who benefits from an inflated number? And clearly it's an interest group trying to cow Congress into doing this, that, or the other thing. I remember a few years ago, someone came out with a number. I can't remember what the number was, but it pertained to teenage prostitutes. And I sat down a little bit of pencil and paper and figured out, based on the number of teenagers in the country, that this advocacy group was saying that 1 in 8 teenage girls in America was a prostitute. I thought that was somewhat high.
Do you? It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your daughter is?
Yes.
10 o'clock in the morning or
10 o'clock at night? Well, whatever.
Yeah. But it's a pattern. It's just a pattern
to
in
make
this
it.
town.
Well, it was Kinsey, though. It was Kinsey who supposedly gave the figure of the 10%, so there was something to latch on to. But.
We have to wrap it up and have to leave that one unanswered. I'm not even going to answer it because our time is up. We'll be back with a few examples of what a new book calls the stupidest remarks ever made in a moment.
To experience the true joy of cooking, it must be pursued with reckless abandon and total disregard for the inevitable splatters, spills, squirts, and the occasional splash. Fortunately, GE's profile cooking appliances have ingenious quick clean features like lift-top ranges, self-cleaning ovens, easy wipe surfaces, and sealed burners. So they clean with just a wipe. GE's profile appliances are so easy to clean, they take the joy of cooking to new heights.
What in the world is intelligent color? Intelligent color is color that helps people to see the important things in documents. It's color for anyone who has to run a business on a small budget. How intelligent is intelligent color? Intelligent enough to digitally print in black and white and color all at the same time. To find out what intelligent color can do for your documents, do something intelligent. Call 1-800-ASK-XEROX, the document company.
Corn. Not only is it America's most abundant crop, it's also the most versatile. At the Archer Daniels Midland Company, we get golden corn oil from it, as well as corn sweeteners, ethanol, and protein products used in animal feeds. Today, we're extracting even more sophisticated value-added products from corn. Products such as citric acid, which gives candies and fruit-flavored beverages their tangy flavor. And lysine, an amino acid that optimizes the nutrition of poultry.
And the title is The 776 Stupidest Things Ever Said. Here are a few sample quotes. The Atlanta Braves third baseman on why he had said he'd grow a beard but didn't. He said, "I've been traveling so much I haven't had time to grow it." Movie actor George Raft in a telegram to a producer, "You say this picture deal will be 50-50. In fact, it'll be the reverse." A councilman of the District of Columbia, "If the crime went down 100%, it would still be 50 times higher than it should be." Frank Rizzo, former mayor of Philadelphia, "The streets of this city are safe. It's only the people that make them unsafe." a sign on the front of a nightclub for members and non-members only. An Army intelligence bulletin in the Vietnam War. The unit had an estimated strength of 2,000 men, of whom 300 were women. Dizzy Dean, the great pitcher, after a baseball hit him in the head, said, "The doctors x-rayed my head and found nothing." All of us here at ABC News, until next week, thank you.
This Week with David Brinkley, brought to you by ADM, Supermarket to the World, and by GE. From aircraft engines to appliances, we bring good things to life. Tonight on ABC's Day One with Forrest Sawyer.